My name is Ouigi Theodore, and I am the creative director of the Brooklyn Circus, a men's clothing brand and boutique based out of Brooklyn.
It's a fantastic boutique. It's a fantastic brand. I've been following you in the brand for a long time, avoiding you at trade shows for a while. There's that cool Ouija. So.
Not true.
Yeah, no, that really wasn't true. So tell me a little bit, where are you from and how did that shape your work and your career?
I was born in Haiti. I was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. I came to the U.S. at the age of 8. And so the dynamic of being born in Haiti and growing up here in America, I was always, I say struggling in the beginning, but now it's become just my constant balance of, being Haitian and being American at the same time, because I think that I'm equally both. And so that for sure has always affected my viewpoint and the way that I design, the way that I see the world and create.
And I know we've talked, you're back and forth quite often. So it never really probably leaves your essence. It never ever is such a separation. It's there. And if you moved to the US when you were 8, then you've grown up really having both sensibilities, both cultures firmly planted in your thought process.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the 100-year plan for Brooklyn Circus. And I'll remind you, when we first started talking, you schooled me about your 100-year plan, and you wanted to understand what the Macy's 100-year plan was as it related to us working together. I'll never forget that conversation. I'm like, I'm not sure I have the answer. I think I have a 6-month plan I can talk to you about. But if you would please talk to us about the 100-year plan.
I think Macy's, again, a company that's over 100 years old, clearly, the founders had some sort of a long-term plan. It wasn't about the cool and the hip and the now. And for me, the 100-year plan from a Brooklyn Circus perspective and personally is about that as well, pulling history forward and creating history in the moment to move that forward as well. So a 100-year plan is style and character, the story that hasn't been told, because coming from Haiti and being here in America as a Black American Haitian man, I think that there's more story to be told. And, 2020 has shown us that there is a lot more to be told, and so the world is opening up itself to that. So that's really what the 100-year plan is, to think as much forward and back as possible and pull that.
Wonderful.
It's not separating the two, future and the past and the present are all one movement.
No, absolutely. And listen, we'll talk a little bit about storytelling in a bit, but I will tell you in the hours we have spent collaborating with the team, there is no better storyteller than you.
Oh, is that right?
I have decided that. There are no better creative individual who can weave the story into the product curation and creation, and you get it. So I do have to tell you that, because that storytelling is incredibly important. So tell me, how would you describe the feeling when you see someone you don't know in public with a Brooklyn Circus varsity jacket on?
Oh man, that feeling. What's amazing about that is that the Brooklyn Circus, people know the Brooklyn Circus more than they know me. And there are people that know me more than they know the Brooklyn Circus. So it's always an amazing balance to figure out which is which. I've seen folks in the streets and they're like, oh, you're from that Brooklyn Circus. Oh, okay, yeah, what's up, man? I love your style. I don't know what you do, but I love your style. You're always on the blogs. I'm like, hey, I'm a designer, and okay. Versus, folks that know the brand. I'm like, hey, Ouigi, I work for a brand based out of Brooklyn. I'm like, oh, what brand? Brooklyn Circus. Oh, I know Brooklyn Circus. Okay. So it's always interesting, but I love it. I love to see the jackets come back worn. I love to see people add their own stories to the jackets, because we do have specifics to how we style and do what we do. But it's just for us, and it's just an extension in case you don't know what to do. But generally, it's about you taking that piece of item and doing what you do with it. And I love to see that exchange. So it's always great. It's great.
Yeah, listen, my personal belief is that is what's created the longevity for the brand and the timelessness of the brand. Yet it just stays relevant, right? Regardless of where the trend cycle goes. And I think that's one of the brilliance of what you and the team do, is that it somehow just cuts through. And that's real work.
I think that's the honesty and the storytelling. When you're honest and you're telling true stories, no matter what season, time of the year it is, it's like, wow, that's a real story. That's true, and that's what we try to stick to.
Absolutely. So Brooklyn, your current hometown, has changed dramatically since you opened the Brooklyn Circus. With the constant evolution of that borough, how have you seen fashion change? So since you first got there and opened the store.
I think the way to understand how Brooklyn changes is to allow Brooklyn to be Brooklyn and then step back and look at it from an historical perspective, because eras and place, because when you're in the moment, I don't think you sometimes realize, what's happening. And I think that's what it is with Brooklyn. Because, I've been in the retail business for 17 years, and 14 of that's been the Brooklyn Circus. And even at times, I have to look back and say, oh, wow, that's what was happening then, and that's what Brooklyn was doing. But Brooklyn always has a way of balancing street and luxe and a certain amount of sauce and soul that I don't know any other boroughs doing. I mean, shout to Harlem.
No, I think listen.
But there's something special about what Brooklyn does.
Yeah.
And with the influx of folks coming from everywhere else, it's going to be interesting to see like what comes of that. The outside influence.
What the next iteration of all that is. And listen, and speaking of that, how long did it take for you to find your personal style? Now you've got a very specific, amazing, identifiable, enviable style that seems effortless. But listen, I know there is no true style that's effortless.
None. And coming from you, I'll take that.
So tell me.
I think my personal style is, again, I use my style as, the way a poet uses words, the way a writer uses words and a pen to paper. It's, are you being honest? Do you feel good about the use of this particular item? And there are times where I look back and I'm like, ooh, maybe I should have done this. But it's still where I was.
At that moment,
that moment.
Sure.
So let it be.
Sure.
And so, but it's a constant evolution, but there's always certain elements that must be involved in my style. And it's a mix of old, a mix of new, a mix of dirty, a mix of clean. It's just this, and at the end of the day, this casualness to it. I want to seem, of course, intentional, but not forced.
Sure.
And that's the constant balance with how we style the store, our looks, and just me. It's just, it has to be approachable as well, but yet
accessibility is key.
Makes someone want to say, and I think your style, you do that really well. It's like, wow, it's, dolled up and it's done well, but it's approachable versus someone that's dressing and looking a certain way and you're like, dude, you don't look comfortable. I'm not comfortable speaking to you. Where are we going with this?
No,
you look amazing though.
Absolutely. Right. Just don't want to talk to you.
Just don't want to talk to you, right.
So how do you want people to feel when they're wearing your clothes?
The same way. I want them to feel honest. I want them to feel like it belongs to them.
Yes.
And when they own it and they own the style or own whatever it is that they do with it, and when they're done with it, I want them to know that we want it back. We're okay with you bringing your old stuff back to us, and then we now. So it's a constant,
Wow.
Yeah, it's a constant relationship of, ownership.
Sure.
But ownership for sure,
But it's almost as though you give your consumer the ability to evolve.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
They aren't in a box with Ouigi Theodore style or Brooklyn Circus style. It's how do you integrate it into your style, and then come see us. We're going to evolve and offer a safe space to do that.
It's like a Patek Philippe. They say you never own a Patek Philippe. You're just taking care of it for the next generation.
Exactly. No. I love the reference. I think it's a good one. Let's talk about Macy's a little bit.
Yes.
So, and I love some of these questions, Ouigi, because again, in our initial conversations, you were very forthright and honest with me about your perception about Macy. So I'm going to just jump in. I probably know some of these answers myself, but I'm going to, of course, ask you. So what are some of your earliest memories of Macy's?
Earliest memories of Macy's is 14, the Ralph Lauren section. Or Christmas, or the Thanksgiving Day Parade. I've been to the Thanksgiving Day Parade a couple of times, but not as a kid. But for sure, I remember holidays and the wooden escalator. We're talking about 34th Street.
Yes, of course.
And just that energy and the vibe there. It was always something that Macy's always did Macy's well, you know, as compared to the other stores, but Macy's always did Macy's well and continued to kind of cut through all this stuff. And then for sure, when you think about the Sean John, that entire floor of, you know, urban brands, for me, that was major. That was huge. You guys were ahead of the curve because to dedicate an entire floor to urban designers, it was like, wow, this is a foundation that I'm gonna work off of. And then that collapsed. And I was like, yo, what happened to that? I thought we were supposed to follow up, but I guess we are, because I'm here now.
Well, absolutely, and that leads me to my next question. So again, shopping, you know, those signature departments at Macy's, knowing the iconic events we stand for, before we started chatting, did you ever walk around Macy's 34th Street and think, Ouigi Theodore is going to have a moment, a section here?
Not at all. That's so crazy. That is. Now that you say it out loud, not at all. Not at all. You know, I didn't think, you know, when you think about the shop-in-shops, because you guys did that well as well, or to even say, hey, Ouigi Theodore for Macy's, for Sun and Stone, like wow, you know, 25 years later, to be here, it's you know, yeah, it's amazing.
It's great.
It's amazing.
Can we talk a little bit about your experience in collaborating with us on Sun and Stone? So would just love to hear your thoughts. You know, you came to us, you had a little bit of information about the brand. Nobody does his research better than you. So from there, we start working together. Just talk to me a little bit about your experience.
The experience has been phenomenal. I mean, of course, you, Durand, and initially approaching me. Again, Macy's has a reputation. I mean, one of the things that I did mention earlier was the fact that Macy's had the reputation of taking brands and then blowing them out, and designers get lost unless, of course, you have the shop-in-shops and so on and so forth. And I was like, okay, what is the purpose of the collection? What is the 100-year plan? What's, you know what I mean? What are we really doing?
Yeah.
But when you open the curtains up and I started meeting, you know, Andrea, Suzanne, and Mel, I was like, wow, these people are amazing. You know, very attentive, very smart, always beautifully dressed. You know, it makes you feel like, oh, hey, listen, I'm not the only one that takes this serious. You know, because sometimes you're in a boutique business. And of course, we did the trade shows and Liberty Fairs, and you find folks that are sort of casual, but this is the business of fashion. This is, you know, and still done tastefully. And that's the key. So it wasn't, because my concern was a compromise of commerce, but you guys blended, the team blends art and commerce really well. And I feel comfortable as an artist and a designer in that environment. And so,
which is critical.
Yeah, very good.
How would you, in just a few words, describe your collection for Sun and Stone?
My collection for Sun and Stone, you know, digs into what I love, you know, history and vintage and personal storytelling. And the story is about, you know, the year that my mother was born, 1945. She died at 45. You know, we're talking post-World War II in America. My mother came to America in her 20s. But again, and I think about my grandmother, who was born in 1920. So she was 25 when she had my grandmother. So all of that is all in relations to creating iconic pieces and pieces that tell a story, use the pieces as the drawing board to really sketch these thoughts and ideas and expressions. And it's American. It's American, it's personal. I think it's very Sun and Stone. And I'm excited that, you know, Ouigi Theodore can create this collection dedicated to Mom and the world.
And I'll tell you, I mean, we knew when we decided to approach you, we knew already that we'd like to ask you to work with us on Sun and Stone. But I will tell you, and I think for the Macy's consumer, when they get to experience your collaboration with Sun and Stone, they will see all of that storytelling, all of that history, all of that authenticity. It just almost, and I'm not exaggerating, it jumps off the clothes. We praise you so much. We're going to stop it. You're not going to be able to fit your head through the door, but
no, I'm not that
guy. We talk about each of the pieces individually. We celebrate them, and when it comes together, we celebrate them. So it's been amazing being on this first part of this journey with you, and can't wait for the second and third. I have one more question for you, and this really kind of jumps into 2021, and just a few words or thoughts on the significance of Black History Month in 2021, knowing everything that's been happening and part of the reason we're sitting here together doing this today. Any thoughts on what Black History Month even will mean to you in 2021 versus past years?
In 2021, I'll tell you this, and I'm calling it out first, Black History Month is gonna start on January and end in December.
Okay.
It's gonna be an entire year of
Yeah.
celebration, and I think Black people in America are in a space post George Floyd and during COVID and so on and so forth, where Black people are starting to celebrate themselves a lot more with more purpose. And America is celebrating Black culture, not as a passing fad or trend, but as something that is part of the fabric of America and of the world. So I think Black History Month is gonna start January 1st and end December 31st. So take that as no more 28 days. We're not taking 28 days. No, it's the entire year to go, because it makes the world a better place where people can just celebrate themselves.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing the thoughts on that. I can tell you, we could sit here and talk to you.
I'm sure
all
me and
day
you
long, every day. So if you want to just schedule this again for tomorrow. But honestly, on behalf of everyone at Macy's, we are so proud of this collaboration and excited about the work we'll continue to do. And just looking forward to more. But thank you.